Uh, okay, Lucy Laffitte, PhD Natural Resources, Masters of Education, teaches science and context from the Big Bang to the future through outdoor experiences, classroom instruction, and online learning. A writer, broadcaster, and curriculum developer, she has shared science with diverse audiences in print, on air, and on the web. She's active leader in IBHA, including past president. Her career reflects a lifelong commitment to connecting people with science, history, and the environment through innovative education and media. Lucy?
Hello. Greetings, dear friends. Okay, so this is the world we're facing, and I've absolutely loved this conference. I'm so proud of IBHA and impressed with the level that we have leveled up in terms of our content and our breadth and depth. Um, and so the central question is how are we going to save ourselves? How are we going to, here we are on the planet. So I've been working on, let's see if I can change this. There you see it.
Yep.
A curriculum, the Arc of Emergence, from particles to purpose, a curriculum for the Anthropocene in 10 chapters. Okay, so the goal of this curriculum is very explicit. It is to create self-aware, valorized young adults capable of intentional, individual, and collective action. It is to allow people to think like big historians. And as such, the cosmos becomes self-aware. So I have been carrying around my boxes for the past 10 years. I have piloted this course in summer programs where I get 5 days of middle school students for all day long. And so we cover 10 topics, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And so this has been evolving and changing, and this is the current early version of it. The idea is very Montessori-ish with the child in the middle of the universe. It's kind of a nice moment when they all build their boxes and put their picture of themselves in the middle of the universe. But I realize that that's very deterministic and saying, oh, it's all about us. It revolves around us. So then I found this particular structure, and that's when it became an arc. And the cosmic future, the child is in the outside now and responsible for the cosmic future. So I really liked that idea, and I switched it to the arc. But then I realized that everything, I'll skip that point right now. Okay, so how did I begin this? It turned out I worked at public television for a while. And one of the things I had to do was to make science curriculum and then take all of the science curriculum of a multi-state effort and code it to the standards of the next generation of science standards. I don't know if any of you are familiar with this, but in my mind, this is the biggest boondoggle in the world. It's called three-dimension learning, and there are science and engineering practices, and there are disciplinary core ideas, and there are cross-cutting concepts, all of which are valid and important. But the implementation of this is the way they have rolled it out. Here is small print, but you've got kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2. So kindergarten,
Okay,
if you
interrupt a
just
second. The print will be larger if you go to slideshow. If you look at the top, there
Yeah,
you go.
but she
Yeah,
wants to,
I can
she,
do that. I can do that.
yeah.
Um,
From current slide. From current slide. There you go.
okay, that's better. All right.
very good.
So, I highlighted weather and climate, which seems rather important in the curriculum for young children, and they get introduced to it in kindergarten. They come back to it in third grade. They get a little bit in middle school in under earth science, and then it is in the high school. It's in the high school earth space science course. And so for something as important as climate, it strikes me that that ought to be touched on every year. And in Montessori fashion, where the curriculum is the same for 3 years in a row, that this should be the story of the Big Bang and this Arc of Emergence should be gone over through the course of a whole year, every year, enriching it as sophistication grows. But this, to me, is a nightmare of what our teachers are forced to do. And I've been to teacher training, and it's a theoretical idea that just didn't make any sense for classrooms. But so that's what I was pushing against. And then I was informed by Maria Montessori's Cosmic Education. And she said, you need to give the child the universe. And she did it. Grades 1 through 3 are everything up to life on land. And grades 4 through 6 are the human condition. So I was a Montessori mom. I found out about that. It's kind of how I found Big History. So then it's very heavy into Desjardins and Thomas Berry, very philosophical, very humanistic. But I was educated in science, and my undergrad was general science. And so instead of specializing in biology, I got to take 4 courses in 4 different sciences. And so I really beefed up on my everything from astronomy to zoology. And so I'm bringing then that to this humanistic idea. So this is this cartoon version of what I'm doing now. And I'm using the pretty colors because I want to start with children. I'm hoping to beta test it up here. I have just moved to Massachusetts. Some of you may not know that. And so I'm hooking up with a Montessori school to beta test this. So I found icons for each of the 10 chapters. And yeah, why 10 thresholds? Okay, this was a big struggle for me. I was working with a Montessorian, and I had sometimes, well, David Christian has 8 thresholds. Tyler Volk has 56. And Claudia said to me, Lucy, make it 10. Just use base 10. I know it's an arbitrary thing, just use base 10. So I had to, it was really hard to divide the span of time up. And then I was kind of guided by the realization that if you really just take the kind of known sciences, you can put them in order, not in the way they were discovered, but in the way that the phenomenon that they describe unfolds. So this is how I ended up with 10. And it's very debatable. I expect lots of debate about it. And I'm, if anyone else wants to help get this out there, they feel free to argue with me about how many thresholds it should be. So I tucked mathematics in at the very beginning, and just essentially to point out that it is the only way we have to understand anything. This is bringing now the science model to everything. So mathematics is used to recognize the rigorous structures and principles of logic that allow us to analyze, model, and understand every form of the emergences. And so the first emergence is particles. This is very common among all big historians. And so I did the research on what are the concepts in particle physics that I can find pictures of. And we have this little grid over here. Made myself find 12 pictures that were trying to be authoritative and cover the whole ground of particle science. And so I have, little handouts of these. I have cut it, they're laminated. The students can hand them around. And yeah, so, and then the analysis, the tool of analysis that I did to do this was narrative analysis. I learned this in policy science, where you take a case study and you come up with categories, and then you go through the text or the narrative and dice and slice concepts and things that happened into categories. So I was doing quite a bit of that, and I have pages and pages of categories, attempts, and looking at all sorts of things. And a lot of things were mentioned, like panarchy. I used panarchy as a way of understanding each emergence. That was a big one. Yeah, okay. So energy flows, things like that. I think I've got a slide in here in that. Anyway, so this is now going through the 10 stages in a very kind of cartoon version, but and so I think I want to say, yeah. So the particle, Maria Montessori has a phrase she uses that the universe is God with no hands. And so we're all important to be the hands of the universe. And I like that idea. And so what particles bring to the universe is the probability of something further. And so I tried to find a word that's written down in that particular place in the slide for each one of these, and they're debatable. So the emergence of particles equips the universe with a set of probabilistic constraints and possibilities. So, all right. And so then atoms, of course, are the heart of physics. So you use physics to recognize the constants, the laws, the rules, the principles, and relationships that regulate all cosmic behavior. And, if you think about physics as that, and you're talking to a 6-year-old, it's like, what are the rules of the universe? 6-year-olds know rules, and the terms are introduced at a young age, and then when they revisit them every year in September, say, if they're doing them across the year, they're going to come back and add depth to them. So again, these are, images of 12 concepts. So what atoms brought was stability. The emergence of atoms equips the universe with a set of stable packets of energy and matter. So before it was probability, now it is stability. Okay, so next emergence is stars, obviously. Use astronomy to recognize how life cycles of stars convert hydrogen into the diverse elements of material available to the cosmos. So, it's when you go through the list, like, do you have a separate chapter on elements? Do you go from atoms to elements or atoms to stars? And I went back and forth and back and forth. And so I combined them and put, stars and elements under the heading of astronomy. But the focus of this astronomy concept is, how did we get anything else but hydrogen? Okay, so that's the big question that's answering. Okay, chapter 4 is the creation of molecules. And someone was talking earlier this week about how we need to talk more about the cosmic web and, galactic and stuff like that. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. So my central picture you can see here is, the cosmic web is a structure that it's filled with molecules, and that's totally different than being filled with hydrogen. And that's a big deal. And so what are molecules? And so use and then I focus this, use chemistry to recognize how valence electrons control the infinite number of chemical reactions possible anywhere in the cosmos. So, I remember as a grown-up, probably 10 years ago, looking at the periodic table and not getting it and going, what is that? And then it's like, if you just tell students that chemistry is all about valence electrons, the periodic table becomes, a Bible. And anyway, you all know this. You're way more educated than I am. So anyway, but having a focus to the chemistry that goes through this, and then you can add on, and you can go to rotational chemistry and all the details of valence electrons. So, and these are the concepts for that. So the emergence of molecules equips the universe with an ability to concatenate the myriad of cosmic properties. So things like sliminess, acidity, smells, tastes, touch, weights, all that stuff, all the properties come from molecules. And if you keep focused on that, you kind of helped people simplify. I don't know. Anyway, these are my big ideas. Chapter 5 is use planets. So use planetary science to recognize how a variety of gradients provide energy for metabolic processes. So again, I've kind of boiled this down into the whole thing about the Goldilocks conditions is the fact that we have multiple gradients constantly firing for electrons to be harvested by anybody that can figure out how to do that. And that is not the case on Mars. And so I show the students Mars, and we watch a video of Mars that has no sound. And it's just, and it's static. And then compare that to, video of Earth. And what this introduces into the universe is, you've got your molecules, but you need someplace to do something with them. So it provides habitability. Dive into the planetary science to understand the evolution of habitability in all solar systems. And again, all the systems of the Earth, which we all learn, that's unusual, that the atmosphere is cycling, the hydrosphere is cycling, et cetera, the rocks. Okay, so number 6 is the emergence of cells. And so use biology to recognize how this is incorrect. Not the life cycles of stars. How a membrane can encapsulate metabolic processes. Here's something, dive into the world of wet chemistry at the heart of biology and membrane-bound metabolic processes. So it's essentially being able to hook up to one of those gradients and encapsulate what is making the gradient inside of a cell. And then, so it's really kind of microbiology or chemical biochem in this version. And then the 7th is the emergence of biomes. So use ecology to recognize how the life histories of the myriad of organisms collaborating keep their biomes resilient in the face of change. And so each one of these sentences, I've tried to distill the essence of what is happening in ecology. So dive into the evolutionary resilience of reciprocity that allows life to continue in spite of change. Okay, and then sapiens. Someone used the term sapiens this week, and I love that. And I think I'm going to steal that. And this is where we start to get sticky, right? Because we're crossing over into humans and humanism and humanisticness. And so I use the term anthropology, and I have a history professor who's on my PhD committee, and he hates the concept of anthropology because he thinks it's racist. Because he knows, as a historian, he knows the history of anthropology. Well, I'm not using it that way. I'm using it as what the word means, the study of humans. So relieve it from any past anthropology that has been studied and recreate really a human evolution course full on that really needs to be developed, that we don't have anything like that in any of our classes. To recognize how humans, as a member of a global biome, control the ecosystem services that support them. And it was, so that's what we want to look at in anthropology, is specifically how do we work with our ecosystem services? And then, dive into the imagination that is made possible by language and the wisdom that is maintained intergenerationally by language, but focused on this global ecosystem management. And then, choosing this as a category, cities, really hard, really hard. I want it to represent institutions. I want it to have the embedded stories. I want it to have the foment, the energy that happens from trade. But I stuck with shared fictions is what is brought into the universe. Essentially taking Yuval Harari's Sapiens content and working with that. Now, sociology is another term that my history professor hated, and he said, that should just be history. We should just go right to the humanities. But we're looking at life histories of humans, alone and in groups, small and large. As an ecologist, that's the way you study the red-bellied woodpecker. You look at their life histories. We need life histories of humanity. That's what our sociology course should be. And then finally, this one really gets under people's skin, we end with psychology, because we end with the concept of selves. And so we've gone from way wide and now coming down. We're the center of the universe, etc. All of those dangerous things, anthropomorphic ideas. So I argue that every individual self is a product of everything that came before it. And we have the ability to individuate, if you take Viktor Frankl and Jung, and a purpose, an individual purpose. Now, if you're a squirrel, your purpose is to get your nuts and bury them and have babies. And every squirrel does the same thing. But humans, because of who we are, can do different things. And if we can find our purpose through psychological well-being, and so this includes self-awareness, self-mastery, and my notes are gone, so I can't remember what I was going to say. All the good stuff of, the shadow side, the hero's journey, the hard work of getting mental health. And I don't know if you guys have done this, but at my age, I had to have a time where I kind of said, oh, I'm not a very functional human being. It's not working in this particular, with this body and this set of skills and strengths and shadow sides and all of that stuff, and go in and do that mental health work, which is really starting to get out there on my social media pages, because I'm interested in that. I get a lot of really good stuff about that constantly. Anyway, I think we are getting better and better and better about how to maximize human health, particularly mental health. And so that is the heart of this process. And combining all these together, I propose, I think it's in here. Well, this is, of course, no, the idea of all of this is that you know thyself, and that each branch of science is connected and has an order, and study humans as a member of the global biome that maintains the ecosystem services. So, but essentially, this is self-awareness for the cosmos, and that sounds very Brian Swim and, groovy that we've argued about since the beginning of Big History. But I think we need to claim it. I am a science person who has discovered that bringing in the social sciences is important to the whole story. Yeah, so this is important. Humanity needs to understand its shadow side. We don't want to be tearing up the earth, but we are. So, and then that's the end. Yeah. So that's not the end I had in mind, but I certainly have talked long enough. There's a word called syntopicon, and that is like, Google it. There's a friend of mine in Montessori who's trying to make a syntopicon of Marie Montessori, and it is multifaceted with rows and columns of everything. And I have been trying to do that. I have acres and acres of papers and grids. And, my analysis was to create grids and then look for things that I could put in there. And then that educates me a little bit. Anyway, but I'm overwhelmed and I can't finish. So I would love it if someone, if IBHA wants to help do this, if it's that good. I think we all want our papers to be the ones that IBHA celebrates and loves the most, but that is what I've done here. So I'd love to have some feedback.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Lucy. Ken?
Thank you very much, Lucy. I think you nailed it right on the head. I think this is an experiment that is absolutely worth learning from. So thank you very much. I just wanted to add, and this is a personal thing on my part, I may have misunderstood, but I thought I heard you say that science was the only way of getting to this kind of knowledge. And it is shocking to me that ideas that were dismissed as Eastern mysticism, like Qi and Maya 25 years ago, are now embraced as the latest in quantum physics and neurobiology. So
Okay.
I'm trying not to be critical, but it's just one thing that really bothers me.
No, it's a good point, and I don't know it, so I can't do it. So somebody who knows it can do that, and I like that a lot. To bring,
I'll get you some info on it.
Yeah.
Ken Solis?
I know my wife teaches Tai Chi, and certainly I know a little bit about Taoism and Confucianism, but it's the same token. Although some of the concepts are very similar to quantum, they did not arrive at it. And of course, Democritus with the atomic theory, they did not arrive at it by the rigorous methods required by science. I mean, there's no way in the world that Democritus, started thinking about wave functions of particles and that the electron just exists in a certain location as a probability and so on. So although there's parallels going back to the Dancing Woolley masters and other ones, it's, the concepts are different than coming upon it rigorously. And Lucy, in regards to your threshold, I don't think you need to be apologetic. It depends on the context. And you're working with kids, and you don't want to be doing hardcore physics, talking about hadrons and so forth. So I don't think you need to be apologetic. You'll find out what works in the process. And when I do teach big history, it's with the seniors more in community centers. So I would use something different maybe. And I know David Christian was criticized for his thresholds, but and Dave Lepore and I wrote a paper that described different ways of doing thresholds, and there's no one way. So I applaud you in what you're doing, and colors are great for kids, and great for people too. So thank you for what you're doing, and feel free to keep exploring what you're doing.
I want to apologize if I was unclear. I absolutely agree that science is the only way to do it rigorously. The reason I mention it is, first of all, it is often used as a way of denigrating people who didn't have science rather than wondering at their ability to perceive the same thing. And the other thing is the Indians have taken the idea of Maya and applied it in ways that help people live their lives that we haven't figured out. So I just wanted to clarify that.
No, I fully agree that science is not the only epistemic method. Otherwise, philosophy would be gone, along with a lot of the humanities. Science is an important tool, but I don't believe in scientism that everything will be knowable by science, for example. And I think the other areas of this way of understanding the world deserve respect. And of course, the science is spun off of philosophy as they discovered empirical ways to study their own particular area. As everybody knows, Isaac Newton's great book was the philosophy of natural sciences, or something like that. Anyway, it was philosophical. It's called natural philosophy back then. So yeah, I fully agree that science is not the only way to know the world. The Romantic movement had its very good points, and so forth. So thank you very much.
Very good. Paul?
Thanks, Dave. Lucy, thank you so much for this. I wish there was a nationwide curriculum for K-12 and then continuing on to higher ed using the theme of, big history. And I didn't mention this during my talk on Monday, but I guess I've had two major threshold moments in my life. One was as an undergrad when I was a biology major. I took an upper division English literature course, and part of that course involved us reading Frankenstein. And so ironically, it was the arts and literature that brought me to a higher level of appreciation of the natural sciences. I was debating whether or not I should continue as a biology major. And so this is what brought me back to science. So, and part of that was because of that inner struggle that Victor Frankenstein was having with science itself. He was full force, 100%, science is going to save the world. And of course, what we find out is that it was the opposite in this case. And I think that, again, I'm a huge proponent of science. So please, everybody, don't get me wrong. But I think that we need to integrate more of the arts. We talk about STEAM a lot, but it's all air service, if you ask me. We don't really put it into the curriculum. I think big history was my second transition moment, way later on in life, that made me appreciate the connectedness of the sciences more. Most of the courses I took, including OChem, organic chemistry, I just didn't see the relevancy, and that was the irony with all of that. So next semester, I'm trying something new. I'm going to integrate big history and have my students go analog. I have required the textbook of Frankenstein, believe it or not.
Oh, good for you.
And so Lucy and everybody else, I don't know if I'm setting myself up for failure here, but as we all know, reading a book has become something of a extinct type of thing now within students. They just don't read. They don't read. And I'm not talking about Frankenstein alone. I'm talking about biology books and books that we assign. Even if they're online, they just don't read them. So part of the assignment is going to be where they have to take a photo of their essentially their annotations in the book and upload those on a bi-weekly basis. They're probably going to keep for it, but I hope that at the end of the day, they're going to see the relevancy of this in this world of AI that we're now entering, and we're treating this thing like it's the new creature that is going to save the world. but we don't
Yeah.
really have a chance to look at it from a humanistic perspective. Another book
Right.
that I want to show off here is Frankenstein again, the 1818 version. This has annotations by engineers, chemists, biologists, and also folks who majored in literature and philosophy. And so they constantly make the point and ask questions in there about how science helps us. And if we don't take a step back to realize what is the next step of ethics, we're doing what Victor Frankenstein essentially did. So I just wanted to give a plug to you.
That is very cool, though, Paul. I mean, that's a
I
great.
really hope that next year I can report back on how the class failed or not.
I want to
but
report.
we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent, Paul. Thank you. Todd?
Hey, yeah. So first, just Paul, to add to what you just said, I think, having students learn how to read is also learning how to think, right? So there's that we forget that
Right.
reading is a thinking process, or it's a guide to our thinking process. But so Lucy, just wanted to add my gratitude for your presentation. That was a really wonderful way to think about things. And so to build on what both Ken's and Paul said, I think, if I feel like you're demonstrating beautifully the applied, it's a form of applied science and a form of applied big history kind of together. And I
Applied big
think,
history, definitely. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
And
we
applied
just,
science. Yeah.
yeah, in a way that sometimes people don't think about, that we need more demonstrations of what it means to take the scientific insights and knowledge and the framework from big history and make it real to each individual, right? And whether it's grade school kids or graduate students or the general public or whatever, right? So anyway, so I just think it's a really nice illustration of how to do that. So I guess I also do have sort of a question, which is, what plans do you have for, you're going to use this curriculum?
Well,
And then how do you want to disseminate it, I guess, maybe is my question.
I'm clueless, and I'm aging rapidly in terms of ability. I really feel some loss of confidence. It's too overwhelming for me, and I need partners. I need partners that want to get this going. I don't have any, I'm going to work with a Montessori school. I presented at Montessori's, and I have an ally in the Montessori world who is very well respected. He's one of the remaining people that actually knew Mario Montessori, who's alive, but he's about to die. And I don't know, it's like getting it to this stage. It's just been horrific and wonderful, but I almost didn't do it. I almost flaked out because it's so overwhelming and big. But I think there's a nut of value in this. So I don't know what the answer to your question is. I don't know how to do it.
No, that's well said. And I think that's part of the point of our community, right? Is how do we, what Paul just described. Now, Paul, I want to go build a new course along what you're.
Yeah, exactly.
So somehow, as a community, if we can take all these nuggets and amplify them and highlight the essence of what needs to be propagated somehow, I think that's really important.
Lucy,
Anyway,
when I was working about 5 years ago on this project, I'm pulling from neurobiology and complexity science and this and this and this. And I came down and told my wife, and I said, I just feel overwhelmed. And she looked at me and she said, well, that means you've got to write the book. And I said, why? And she said, because you're the only one stupid enough to.
Yeah, but that doesn't get me over the hump of actually doing it. I have 7 chapters written, but that's such an early version, and I don't know. Anyway, thank you. Keep going.
Excellent. Very good. So I saw Steve join. Is that Steve Ripley?
Yes, I'm just trying to contact you now.
Okay. Are you
Can
ready?
Can you hear me okay, just like this, David?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, so I don't have my picture up, but I'm trying to get organized to present at least one image.
Okay. There should be a share button. I
All
believe
right, let
if you
me
go
find.
to, is it at the bottom?
Yes, it should be here.
The green button.
Yeah, hang on. Sorry for this.
So Steve is getting that. I did hear from Davidson Lohr, who was at an earlier part of this symposium earlier this week, but he's been taking care of a medical issue at the Veterans Administration, and has been dealing with that and kind of forgot about this. And anyway, he's got an appointment, long appointment there today. And you know, if you get a medical appointment, boy, you better take it. So a lot of times it just takes a long time to get those appointments. I offered him, you know, if he wants to record something, and then we'll put it on the web page. Otherwise, you know, he does have his draft paper up on the folder to take a look at. You know, he did get back to us, and hopefully his medical condition resolves soon. So Steve, everything on your screen, okay?
I pressed the. Am I mute? Am I not muted or still vocal to you?
I can still hear you. Yeah.
Okay. And I did press what I thought was the share of the screen button, but evidently I.
Yeah, it says that you are sharing, but all I see is
After you hit the share, it should give you a number of screens that are available to it, and you got to use the one with your presentation.
Right. Well, let me see here. I'm having a problem keeping that subsection up on my screen so that I can take. There we go. The share device is on.
yeah.
Show.
Stop the share and try again.
Okay. All right. So I'm seeing you now.
So you
Okay.
hit the screen share button.
Oh, stop. Due to okay. Go to
Okay.
application. It says
The share. So again, try to find that green button to share, and then usually ask you what you want to share.
yes. That okay. So I've got share. I've just pressed share.
And we haven't seen that yet.
Right.
I think you have to pick what you want to share before.
Okay, that makes sense.
Click on that, and then there's another button to say actually share this screen.
Go to share screen. As I want to go to
Yes.
screen, do I? Good.
So
Okay,
share
there.
screen.
Everything on your screen, including notifications, etc. Screen broadcast.
That's you've got something else. Is your take your cursor and put it just beneath all the pictures. You should see a green share button.
I think he's there, and just you do have to, after you get the green button share, then you pick what you want to share, and then you have to pick
Well, I have
that
a
other
choice.
share
Screen,
button.
photos, share camera, cloud. Oh, there we go. Okay,
Yeah,
so I'm
okay.
in.
We can see you now.
Yes. Or can you? I can. My visuals are on now from my side.
Okay.
You can see
Yeah,
your
we don't.
face.
We see you. We don't see a presentation.
No, there is no. I
Yeah,
tried
okay.
to find a PowerPoint for this, but it just
Yeah.
didn't come together.
Okay. Just a minute. Let me get.
I have one way I could work around this, but I don't want to be a nuisance to the gathering. It would
Yeah,
require.
I think this will be fine. Steve Ripley, President and Research Director of Futures and Forecasts Inc. in Vancouver, Canada. So studied philosophy, University of Alberta, Calgary, postgraduate philosophy, mid-60s, and research interests, artificial intelligence, computer science, biochemistry, biology, earth science, and big history. Steve?
Yes. Well, please tell me if my workaround here would make sense to you. Otherwise, I'll just try to wing it. If any of you want to, you could go on your computers and just go to Google and bring up what is called the Flammarion image, a woodcut from medieval history. And this would give us a good idea for me to talk around. But if I just describe it to you, there are many versions of this. And it shows an individual, a so-called traveler or pilgrim from that period, peering out from the earth at the edge of the heavens. And this individual is gazing into where he believes heaven meets earth. And the question that I pose as one small part of my paper is, how do differing cosmologies through time narrate the observer role in cosmology? And because this is such a dramatic image, I was hoping that to be able to show it to you and you would be able to speak, because I would really appreciate your feedback. Give me your ideas about how you would interpret the role of the observer from ancient times to today. Beside the Flammarion image, I also have an image from John Wheeler. Most of you will know his name through physics in the last century and his enduring influence in what he calls the participatory universe. And this bears upon his interpretation of the waveform and contemporary quantum physics. So that image shared with the Flammarion image are quite interesting ways to open the question about what is the role of, in our case, of course, we're talking about humans or other detectors. What is the role of human observation in interpreting cosmologies? So since we don't have the Flammarion image before us, maybe, David, if you Googled.
Yeah, I just put a link to the one that I found.
If you go to Wikipedia, you'll see immediately the image that I'm using. But as I say, Google itself will bring up 100 different images of this Flammarion. It's capital Flammarion.
Okay, very good.
It's a great image that, is exactly what big historians are doing, is peeking behind the curtain of the.
One interesting thing about it is that it seems to reference modernity's belief that only the waking world is worth paying attention to, whereas other cultures, it's sleep and drugs and all sorts of other things are ways of understanding the world.
Yes, I guess my response to that would be that insofar as we're trying to communicate together in English, and I make quite a deal about natural languages and artificial languages and so forth in the paper, we have no common language that I know of that covers all non-conscious or subconscious experience. So I would be glad to include it if you could email me a language that I could use to translate into English.
Altered states of consciousness.
Yes, altered
Okay.
states of consciousness. Yeah. I refer to those in the tribal traditions, what I call the intuitive traditions. But that, and I actually exclude those from my presentation to the extent that I'm trying to create a framework for big history. It's because it's a highly abstract presentation. I specifically say that it does not include various kinds of experience that are not covered by some kind of articulation in our usual languages, which includes, of course, science and the natural languages. Did that come through? I guess not.
Yeah, we're still hearing you. Yes.
What is it that you want to say about that image to us?
Lucy, I thank you for the question. And of course, how long do we have to talk? Really, I'm inviting you, if you care to go to the abstracts a section of the IBHA presentation, and you'll see my email there, and I'd be happy to send you a copy, very happy to send you a copy of my draft to date. And it's lengthy and very dense and quite abstract. So I don't know if I can.
Can you just give us a general idea of what you're doing?
Yes, the purpose of the paper is to create a framework. And by framework, perhaps I can use this image again to give you an idea of what I'm after. You see the image before you, but of course, around the edges are the border of any frame presentation. And I'm discussing the construction through history of those frames and what are the crucial concepts and how they evolve. That's it. But it's at an axiomatic level of abstraction using ontology and epistemology that returns to the ancients and then comes forward through from the pre-Socratics, the Socratics, Aristotle, Plato, into the medieval, past the medieval, into, of course, the Newtonian, and then to general relativity and quantum theory.
Well, that instantly makes me want to include it in this curriculum as like the first conversation about, epistemology. How do we know anything and the frames of reference? And so that's a great talking point for kids to understand that as we do the big history journey, the frames of reference matters significantly, and that kind of self-awareness is important for what we read and what we think and who we are.
I couldn't agree more. And the word, of course, that we've been using here amongst the colleagues is foundational. This is the foundations of any big history. So it would have to be included insofar as big history is presented in symbolic logic or in English. I make a point of, in a section I called constraints, to say that with regard to certain kinds of experiential presentations, this I do not assume that English covers all such experiential um, ways of representing reality. But to the extent that we're going to include science and English, it does.
So I have just posted in the chat a link to his draft paper, which I put in our folder. So I hope everyone can get to it that wants to. Please let me know if you can't, because sometimes I believe it's in a share folder and a shared link. So on page 13, you do have that image that we see, but then right next to it, you do have the participatory universe by Wheeler.
Yes.
Yeah, that one I'm actually more familiar with.
Mhm.
And I think that one is a very interesting one of, kind of again, going back to like a Carl Sagan um, quote, that we are how the universe knows itself, right? The kind of
Yes.
the you, where it kind of started, the universe developed and eventually developed conscious beings like ourselves that were able to study the universe and kind of see back all the way to the beginning. Kind of a very nice diagram, kind of showing that kind of, I think, the meaning behind that quote. It's and of course that's from John Wheeler, who was before. Um, I think he did it before Carl Sagan. John Wheeler lived quite a long time, but
Yes.
okay. So I think those who want more, you can kind of take a look at his paper that I posted on there, and um, you do develop that quite a bit. Yeah, see with the references, it's well, a lot of references. uh, it's like 17 pages without the references, and then a large number of references that are in there. So I think very well researched, and I think this is an important part of, again, the creative part of Big History is trying to understand the images and how we convey it. And the research group had met a year or so ago talking about various pictorial images of Big History. The U might have had something like the U, but we did not have the Flammarion image in there. So that would be a good one to add. Um, but I think that, really the images can be quite powerful in terms of, conveying the story or a concept like that U does very quickly. And so I think it's kind of important that we do take a look at these ways of communicating Big History.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Any other comments or questions on that?
I guess I could suggest that, or invite really, is individuals' response to either of those images. In particular, the Flammarion allows sort of a quick entry to this problem because it's so direct and humanized. Uh, and by that, I mean that we can imagine all of us trying to search for meaning in the universe. And depending upon how one envisions oneself in that position, it's going to make a difference, of course, in what kind of universe it is we're imagining might be realizable. And I want to say, David, thank you very much for putting that out there, the link. And I would appreciate any feedback. That is a preliminary draft, and there's lots more to do, but that's the kind of start that I would enjoy, is receiving any kind of feedback on that.
Very good. Thank you. Todd?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Steve. I really appreciate you bringing this question to our awareness. So I love this image. I used to use this a lot I teach cosmology classes, and I used to use this as a way to get the students discussing, and
Right on.
because like you said, it's so concrete and immediate. So you asked for reactions, kind of, and I think one of the first things that comes to my mind in looking at this and thinking about what you're saying is that we're always in this kind of predicament where we're both inside the universe that we're trying to describe, and we're kind of a perspective that goes outside of it. And so just how to think about that dilemma or that paradox, right? That we're, like in the picture, you see the person looking out into the part of the universe they see as something that they are outside of. And yet, as we learn in big history, we're also, like Dave said, we're a way for the universe to know itself. So it just brings to mind that question of how do we reconcile being both in our description of the universe and also a perspective that's outside of it.
Todd, precisely. Thank you. And that's what my paper is about.
Okay.
And the history of that problem.
Very cool. Looking forward to reading it.
Yeah, Lucy, do you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, hey. So I didn't get as far as I wanted to in my presentation, but I kind of, proposing a new term of art, that the anthroposphere is the name of something that is like the noosphere, or it's everything. So in my pictures, it would be all of that stuff above us. It would be the physics and the chemistry and all of that. But the anthroposphere is an agent in the universe, just like the biosphere and the hydrosphere and the atmosphere are. And it includes all of the subconscious norms and values and things that society that is embedded in the city's category. But by naming it, it began the minute we heard the echo of the Big Bang, because now the human gaze has gone with our eyes all the way to the beginning. And so if we name it the anthroposphere, and I'm pretty sure you guys get what it is that I'm talking about, it's the curtain, and then we can start poking and prodding it and measuring it and testing it and trying to work with it so that it allows the planet to continue functioning. That is another piece of this thing, was this proposed new term of art, which is, coining a new term, anthroposphere.
Lucy,
Comments?
Pardon me.
Yeah, go on.
That really interests me. You mentioned measuring it. How would you organize the measurement of it?
Well, just the imagination that we can hold a sphere, understand a sphere of impact in the cosmos that is the most recent one, and that it's human made, and is then it just allows you to mentally thought experiment, measure, quantify, you know, look for positives and negatives, do an analysis of all the categories you want to look at, like the other like what are the energy levels, what are the how fragile is it, using panarchy, you know, which stage are we at? It just allows you, it's just a metaphor so that you can talk about it, you can analyze it, think about it, do research on it.
Do you imagine that as something that mathematics could attend to at all, or is it non-mathematizable?
So the way I've dealt with math in this is to put it in chapter 1, and then chapter 1 goes through all levels, and the kids learn math in context by studying, okay, what's the math, you know, what's the math that's helpful in chemistry? Is it, you know, algebra? Is it geometry? And then, so that math is always a tool that we look at everything. I'm very intrigued with the idea that a physicist says that the universe is mathematic, that we discover these things because they're actually out there. But right now, I take it at face value, it's just a tool for humans to understand their world and get some predictability in it. So I mean, to ask the question, what math tools can we use to understand the Anthroposphere? That just opens a door that now can be walked through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, Carl.
Yeah, looking at this observer problem with
Dave, could you
this,
stop sharing so we can all see each other?
oh,
Oh,
Here's the contact info for Steve BB.
uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, talking about this observer situation and the experience that accompanies us if we look out into the cosmos and explaining. I mean, it is basically impossible to experience the rotation of the Earth, but we through these mirroring out, for example, what Kepler did, the trajectory of the Mars, and then by inference applying this to the Earth. So we're rotating around and at the same time flying around the sun. This is not only an observer issue. This is now basically this practical issue. Well, now when we say the Mars flies this and this and this far away, how do we get there? Because now you have basically this, after you meter this out, how this thing flies, now you can actually go there. And that's the whole difference to all these previous, some kind of observation references. All these other cosmologies basically don't have this metering accomplishment under their belly, basically. So we're talking, when we talk about a paradigm change, you always talk about, from now on, this is something that is basically only understandable. You have to follow, what did Kepler actually do? How did they accomplish this to find out how this thing flies? And then the crazy part was get the dynamic. When this thing flies away from the sun, it decelerates. When it comes back, it accelerates. So you get the real motion of this thing. And and it is clear. You see it with this basic formula of velocity. You get a first geometric kind of understanding. It's not the mechanical side of it yet, but you can meter out. Oh yeah, it gets slower, flying away, and then it comes back. And now you're dealing with this, and Newton had to then come and put this force in place, gravitation, which then was. I mean, we can't touch this. I can never directly experience gravity or something. But the funny thing is, we have actually the limbic system. We have the inner ear that detects gravity. So we have something in our body that makes us basically cosmological beings just from the senses. I majored in psych, so this was one of my entry, get really interested in perception to understand, we have actually a sixth sense. And it was, I guess, discovered by Perkinier. I think it was a Russian guy. And then in order to explain their organ, you need actually Newton's theory. You need gravity basically nailed down as a physical force. Now you can explain the organ you have in your inner ear. And I see, this is what this modern way of science is actually intruding into our own bodies and the reality outside on this explanatory level. But you need to basically analyze and synthesize. That is a foundational thing for all these sciences. Hi.
All right. Thank you. So I think that concludes for the symposium, unless other people have other comments on the conclusions or recommendations about what went right or what went wrong with this. If you have any comments later, please send them to me. I'd like to know. I think this was very successful. I really appreciated everyone coming here. I know at peak we had 32, but people came in and out kind of as they had to. We know everyone's very busy, so I know that was, the number of people who actually joined was higher than the peak at any one time. And I know that people are asking, at least the teachers of Big History Project, asking for where the videos are of this. So they're already interested in that, and others of you who already shared the link with others. So it's not just the people who joined live, but now we have things online with the videos, and people can take a look at them. And so I think this has really generated a lot of interest in what the papers will be also, right? So this nice little video gives them introduction to what the paper is, and they'll be hopefully looking forward to the papers and reading them. And I am also. So any comments or conclusions other than that for the conference? Just wanted to say thank you to Ken Baskin, Ken Solis, for helping with the timing. I know that the timing is a difficult position to be the one not really liked, but that was done well. Lowell, for working with the videos. That is very nice that we're kind of getting those videos up very quickly. And I'd like to introduce and say thanks to Helen Kybera, I believe is how you pronounce your last name, from Jacksonville State University in Alabama. She will be helping review some of the papers when they come in. So thank you very much, Helen, for getting involved with that. Carl, questions?
Oh no, I have to take my hand down. But
okay.
Just thank you so much, David, and for everybody that organized this. I mean, I really, really appreciate what you all do. was amazing, really an amazing experience.
All right. Thank you, Carl. Thank you for your discussions and talk. Excellent. Alexander?
Oh, just to thank you again, Dave. Fascinating meeting, very interesting discussions. I hope to be more close to the association and follow other meetings. Thanks again. I know how it's difficult to organize a meeting, and thank you for all your efforts to do that for us.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you very much for, again, participating in this. This is, it was very nice. I know virtual meetings are a lot easier than to organize in real meetings in person and a lot less expensive. Obviously some downfalls, some disadvantages, but I think in this case, advantages outweighed the disadvantages. And thank you very much for participating and being on time and respecting the rules and having great discussions. It's very good. So, again, if you have any questions or comments or whatever, just send me an email. Let me know. Work on your papers, read other papers, look at videos that you hadn't seen live or whatever. Because we want some reviews and discussions of some of the other papers also. All right. So
Congratulations, Dave. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dave.
All right. Very good. So again, thank you very much. And hopefully see you again soon sometime. And looking forward to working with you and your papers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. Thanks, Dave. We're done.